Welcome to Country Fried Rock, where we talk with musicians to find out what inspires their creativity. Country Fried Rock, music uncovered. We apologize for the audio quality on this week's radio show. It doesn't really meet our standards. It's a good conversation. Thanks a bunch for listening. Today on Country Fried Rock, we're talking with Eric Ambel of The DelLords, a name that's come up in other episodes of this program, including last year's interview with Jimbo Mathis, where he talked about having Roscoe, as Ambel is sometimes known, produce his album, and then they swapped roles, and Mathis will produce one of Ambel's records. Well, how could someone like Eric Ambel, who's made a career of being a sideman, a producer, a songwriter, a solo artist, return back to one of his earlier bands, The DelLords? Today, we'll find out how the original band got back together and their brand new record, Elvis Club. We'll hear more about it from Eric Ambel of the DelLords today on Country Fried Rock.
Hi, this is Eric Ambel.
Good morning, Eric. I appreciate you being up this early.
My pleasure. It's not early for me.
Really?
No, I have to get up early because when I go to sleep, all I can think about is coffee the next day.
Do you have a preference of what kind you like?
Well, I'm kind of a self-confessed coffee snob. I like single origin beans, and I make my coffee in a single cup French press.
Ooh.
After grinding in a conical bird grinder. Ethiopian would be my favorite, though. I am in Clinton Hill, Brooklyn.
Is that an area you've been in for a long time?
No, we just moved here a couple of years ago. I lived in the East Village for a real long time, 30 years, and then one of my cycling buddies was moving, and he had this pretty fabulous place. My wife and I, we weren't even thinking about moving. And when I told her that my buddy Roberto was selling his apartment and moving to Borneo, she was like, "Roberto's place?" It's kind of an odd apartment in that it's in an old industrial building, but it has a private backyard, huge windows. So we're loving it.
So tell me about your cycling.
Well, when I was on tour with Steve Earle, I got one time before the Jackson Browne tour, we did a tour with Jackson Browne and Kev Moe, and the tour manager called me up and said, "We're putting a bike rack on the back of the bus, and there's one empty spot. If you want it, you got to call it." And I was like, "Sure." I didn't have a bike at the time, but we were rehearsing in Chicago, and I went to a bike shop, and I bought a bike, and they put it together, and an hour later I was on the Lakeshore Drive bike path, and I've kind of been smiling ever since. After a while with the bike, I got a few different bikes, and at one point I had an epiphany when I was looking at the bike in my hotel room and realized that the bicycle was an awful lot like a Telecaster.
Tell me about that.
Well, the genius of Leo Fender and his guitar designs is that all the parts were interchangeable. If you had a Gibson and the neck went bad, you couldn't just swap out the neck. And on a bike, the layperson looks at a bike and they see a bike, but as you get deeper into it, you see the frame, fork, and the wheels, and the crank, and, all these things can be changed, sort of customized. After getting into the bike and taking it on the road on the Earl tour, when I was in New York, I'd seen the Messenger guys riding these bikes that looked like they had only one gear, which is a fixed-gear bike or a track bike, and I really got into that. There was something about the aesthetic and also the fact that there's nothing to go out of adjustment if the thing got bumped under the bus.
Right.
So now I have 5 bikes. I just love the bike. I realized also after having the bike for a while that I never really had a hobby. Like music, it's a sort of a life pursuit. Some people look at it as a hobby. It's certainly not a hobby for me, but it's really great to get on the bike and be off the phone and the computer, and I just always pretty much feel like a kid when I'm on the bike, so that's a good feeling. I use it to get around in the city, and it's phenomenal for that. I show up everywhere early, and I ride in the winter and in the summer. It's really something. Hi, this is Eric Ambel from the DelLords. You're listening to Country Fried Rock.
Interesting. It's become kind of a thread in this show with people talking about ways that they keep their minds free when they're on the road a lot.
I even got to do the back page essay in Bicycling Magazine one year, because one year on the Steve Earle tour, I think I added it up. I had ridden the bike in 33 states, 5 countries in Europe, and all of the UK.
Wow.
And in Canada, too, like 4 or 5 different provinces in Canada. So it was really, when you're on a bus tour, you travel after the gig. Bus gets there early, and then you have all day. And what I would do is just look up a bike shop in the Yellow Pages, and you can go to any bike shop and just ask them, where do I go for a nice 20-miler? And they're always happy to tell you.
We'd love to share with you our free compilation album, the Country Fried Rock Collection, Volume 1. All the songs were donated for the benefit of Nucci Space, a nonprofit organization helping prevent musician suicide in Athens, Georgia. Please consider a donation to Nucci Space. 100% of the money you donate goes directly to their services. Enjoy, y'all.
Hi, this is Eric Ambel from the DelLords. You're listening to Country Fried Rock.
As you were saying, music isn't a hobby for you. How did you get into it?
As a kid, my town had a good music program in school. I sang in the junior choir at church, and then I started I got piano lessons. My mom bid against herself twice at a farm auction and came home with a baby grand piano for $135 when I was in 3rd grade. And then I started playing trumpet in the 5th grade, which I played all the way through college. And also around the 5th grade, I got a neighbor kid to sell me a guitar for $10. With the other instruments, I knew enough. I'm pretty much self-taught on guitar, although I have had some help along the way. But the piano and the trumpet and all that really helped. I just always really enjoyed it, and it just really seemed like something that I just had to do. Sometimes I tell young people, if you can quit, you should.
Well, so then how did that follow for you after college?
Well, when I was in college, around 1978, we started this band, and I went to the University of Wyoming, and we had the first, and at the time, only punk rock band in the whole state of Wyoming named the Dirty Dog. We changed our name to the Accelerators. Then we moved to Hollywood the day after the Stones were on Saturday Night Live for the Some Girls record. And then, the band made an EP out there and broke up, and then I stayed out there playing with a bunch of different people, Rick, Top Jimmy, and then ended up, forming the band Joan Jett and the Blackhearts there in 1980. Hi, I'm Eric Ambel, and I play guitar in the DelLords. We have a new record called Elvis Club. You can get it at DelLords.com, iTunes, Bandcamp, Amazon, and maybe even a record store if there's still one in your town.
What developed?
Well, the Joan thing was great. I played with Joan, and we started the band there in L.A. Then we went to England and Holland, and there was a manager change just as we left Los Angeles. And the new manager, Kenny Laguna, who's still Joan's manager today,
wow,
he came to visit us and talked us into moving to the East Coast. He pulled out back then in Los Angeles, the clubs all had a deal like, if you played the Troubadour, you couldn't play anywhere else in L.A. for a whole month. And every place else to play was far away, San Diego or San Francisco. There wasn't really like a way to really play on the West Coast in 1980. But at the same time, Kenny pulled out the map and showed us, well, here's Boston, here's Washington, D.C., here's New York. Look at all these towns, that are within a 5-hour drive one way or the other. And we were like, So we moved when we came back from Europe, we went straight to New York and took it from there.
At what point did you end up working with other bands while continuing whatever your main project was?
Well, I always liked to play. With the Blackhearts, there was just so much going on that was the only thing I could do. But then after the Blackhearts, I was in New York, and I ended up, Frank Finero and I both found the DelLords on the same day. That became the band. But I always had musician friends, and I like to play with other people. If somebody asked me, I would do it. And I've always just played with a lot of people. And early on, I realized by that time I'd already done quite a bit of recording, and I realized that I could help people with recording, and that's how I kind of got started with the producer thing, which I've been doing since around 1985. Hi, this is Eric Ambel, and I want to steer you towards the DelLords YouTube channel, where you can find some new videos, some old videos, some other interesting things. Just search DelLords 2013, and I'm sure you'll find some entertainment there.
Let's get back to how y'all got started with the DelLords. How did that originally form?
Well, Scott and Manny Coyote had been working on Scott's songs. You know, Scott was in the Dictators, and they were working on music together. And, you know, like at the same time, I was trying to find somebody to play with, and I had some people that I knew, and I was talking to people. And one day I talked to a buddy who was like, yeah, you know, I played with Top 10 from the Dictators yesterday. He's like, I don't know. It was kind of Chuck Berry and Johnny Cash, sort of old rock and roll, you know, like, and this guy was talking about it as it was completely negative. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then as soon as I hung up the phone, I was trying to figure out how to find Scott, who I had met. My punk rock band had gone to see them, the Dictators, in Boulder, Colorado. And I also had kind of a life-changing experience a couple of years earlier, seeing the Ramones and the Dictators, two bands I'd never heard of. I won free tickets from WXRT to see them in Chicago, and that was kind of a mind-blowing thing. So, you know, after that, I just tracked them down and then walked into their rehearsal room with the Snickers and a tab, and we just took it from there.
The first stage of that association ran its course. Producing really became more of a creative focus.
For me, the thing that's been really great is playing in bands, writing songs, producing records, being a sideman. All these things, you get a lot of perspective from doing all of these things, where if you stayed just in one, you're only seeing things from one angle, you know? And I've really tried to keep going, if it's playing with some bands or, you know, I try to keep the width of the thing. To me, that's really where the strength is, and that helps me. You know, when I go in the studio with a band and there's four guys sitting there, you know, one guy is the leader, singer, the other guy is, you know, the hot hand helper, and you got the rhythm section that's supporting. You know, I've been in everybody's chair, and I really try to help everybody get comfortable so they can do a great job.
Country Fried Rock is a proud sponsor of Front Porch Fest, coming to Stuart, Virginia, August 30th through September 1st. Get your tickets now at frontporchfest.com. You're listening to Country Fried Rock. Today we're talking with Eric Ambel of the DelLords. What different things have really excited you at different times?
There's a million of them. From when I had that punk rock band in Wyoming, we made a 45. Back then, there was only one radio station in town, and, you know, being at a stoplight with the windows down and hearing that record coming out of three different cars at the stoplight, you know, that was something great. The first really big shows that I did with Joan, you know, there'd be a song with a stop where the whole band stops, and then there's a lead guitar thing playing in front of 38,000 people, and half of them stick their fist up in the air. That's pretty powerful feeling. And then getting to play on the TV shows with Steve, and, you know, with the DelLords, we opened for some great people. Also, when I was out with Steve on that Jackson Browne Kev Mo tour, you know, during the rehearsals, you know, Jackson Browne has to be one of the nicest, most inclusive guys I've ever met. They're doing the tour rehearsal, and he's like, yeah, let's get Roscoe, come on out here. Here, you can just plug your guitar right into my rig, and you play the solo on Take It Easy in the encore. It's like, well, sure, you know, that's pretty great, too. A lot of great things.
Well, you said something real quick. I know that there is a nickname for you of Roscoe. How did that develop, and who calls you that?
During the DelLords, there was, you know, like I was trying not to hang out with the same crowd all the time, and I stumbled on this after-hours bar in the Lower East Side called No Say No, and it was a lot of artists. It wasn't all musicians. And somehow I got the nickname there, and it kind of stuck. Actually, I used to live on the corner of Roscoe and Reseda in Reseda, California, when my punk rock band from Wyoming first moved there. So, you know, it's nice to have a nickname. There's not too many mutations of Eric. I'm fine. with Eric or Roscoe. But it was good in the early days of having the Roscoe nickname. It was good if someone called and was looking for Eric, it was more likely to be some kind of bill collector or something like that. It was helpful to have a nickname. I know you want to find the DelLords website. What you really need to know is it goes like this: DEL-LORDS.com. Type that in, and you will get to our website, and then from there, the possibilities are endless.
Has there been an opportunity when you've come into someone else's project that's really been like, yeah, this is cool, in the recent past?
Yeah, there's a lot of those. Right now, I'm helping out on Bloodshot is going to be reissuing the first two Bottle Rockets records.
Oh, yay!
I produced the second one, which is the Brooklyn side. And luckily, we found this demo, but there was when I was listening to the demos, this song came up, and it didn't really have a title on it, but the working title was something like when your best friend's on the road and you're thinking about his girlfriend and listening to Lindsey Buckingham, and the song that became the Bottle Rockets' "I'll Be Coming Around." And I have to tell you, I had never heard something so rough that was so great. It was like listening to that thing, I felt excited, and I felt a lot of responsibility too, because this is a really great song, and it's been entrusted to me. It's like having a hot potato,
Yeah.
Luckily, we found the cassette demo, and I'm sure that demo will be in the package for the Bottle Rockets 20-year thing.
Never miss a radio show from Country Fried Rock. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Just search Country Fried Rock. How did the DelLords end up falling back into hanging out?
Well, the band ended, and everybody went their separate ways, and we all got busy doing other things. There was this one promoter in Spain who was he kept bugging us. I hadn't seen this guy for a long time, and then I'm over in Spain playing with the Yahoos, and this guy Pepe from Record Runner, we must have the DelLords. It's like I don't know, we weren't even really talking to each other. Pepe, he just kept it up over the years. At one point when it had literally been 20 years since we played, Pepe got a hold of us, and so, we were kind of like, I guess I talked to Scott. Scott was like, do you want to do this? It's a genuine offer. And so we talked to the other guys, to Frank and Manny. At the same time, we realized that if we were going to go over there and play, we didn't want to just play the old stuff. Kind of at the same time, Scott had been talking to me about working on some songs together, and at that point it was like, well, why don't we have the whole band, and then we could do this tour. And so that's kind of how we got back together, and we put out our new record, Elvis Club, was predated by we put out some rough mixes of a few of the songs as Under Construction EP. We wanted to have something new when we went on tour, so we had this Under Construction EP, but we've never put it on iTunes or really sold it in stores. We just had it on our website and on Bandcamp. And then we continued working on it after that first Spanish thing. We did a couple more rounds of recording, basic tracks to end up with the album that you have now as Elvis Club.
It's developed into a new tour as well.
Yeah, well, we're going to play. We're just making it up as we go along. We've got the band, and we have a new record, and we have a label, and we're trying to get ourselves out there, and we have a little video press kit and a couple live clips and working on a video and just doing all the things that you do. Want to get the word out. Hey, this is Eric Ambel of the Del-Lords.
In terms of personnel, though, there's a floating bass player, is that right?
Yeah, our original bass player, Manny, he went with us to Spain, and we had a great time, but he's a family practice lawyer that helps, children in crisis, and he just really couldn't do it. So he bowed out. In fact, even when he was in, he couldn't make the recording session that we had booked, and Scott flew in, so for that first session, we had Keith Christopher, who plays with me in the Yahoos and plays with Dan Baird in Homemade Sin and lots of other bands. He played in that great band Shaver. So Keith did the first batch, and then we did a song with Steve Almas and some with Jason Mercer. Do you know Jason Mercer?
I don't.
He plays with Ron Sexsmith. He does some producing and stuff. And then we also did some with Michael Duclos. Right now, the band is really the three of us, Scott, Frank, and myself. And Michael Duclos, he did some gigs with us, and it looks like Steve Almas is going to do some gigs with us. We're in a great spot.
How did the title of the record come about?
Some of our other records had sort of a thematic thing going on, and this was just more a group of songs, and it was kind of about us getting back together, and we really had fun. This was probably the most effortless record that we ever made, and there was no agenda other than pleasing ourselves. That's the nice thing about not having a label and doing it at my studio. We had never had less outside influence on our recording ever before. So that's the feeling of the thing. And Elvis Club thing came from one day, in the 80s, we all lived together, and we would walk all the way up to 8th Avenue and 38th Street to this called the Music Building, where there's a 12-story building with 6 rooms on each floor, and they all had 4 or 5 bands sharing them. We were in one of Madonna's old rooms, and right across this hall from the DBs.
Yeah.
But anyway, on the way up there, we all had, variations on the Pompadour or something similar. And we came around the corner, and there's a couple of professional ladies standing in a doorway.
Yes.
And they said, well, what's this, the Elvis Club? So we kind of always thought about the Elvis Club. And when we were getting ready to do these various Spanish dates, went to Spain a couple of times. This is when I still had the Lakeside Lounge in the East Village.
Yeah.
Which is a small place. So we played there a few times, and we didn't want it to be the DelLords and have it be a big deal and be advertised. And so we played under the Elvis Club moniker. So that's kind of where it comes from.
And so the Lakeside Lounge was a music club that you had for a long time.
Yeah, 16 years.
Wow.
April 30th is when we closed last year. So we had the place for 16 years. My friend Jim Marshall, the Hound, the writer and DJ from FMU, and I, we had a lot of really good times there.
Do you have any big things planned for the summer that we can share?
We have a gig June at the Bowery Electric, and we have one of the bands that I produce and sometimes play with, Spanking Charlene, is going to be on that gig. We're hoping to go to Chicago for this little festival that Fitzgerald's puts on around the 4th of July. Some other things down the road at ways. Last year they had the first CBGB's festival in New York, and I was really skeptical about that thing, but it was run so well. I played a couple of gigs with a couple of bands that I play with, part of the festival. I did one with my own duo, which I call Gringo Man, and I did another one with Chris Berardo and the Desperados.
Yeah.
They're a country rock band that I've been producing, and I was also on a producer panel. And that CB's festival really was really great. The DelLords hope to participate in that, and we also really hope to get down to the Americana thing in Nashville. I had such a good time there last year with Jimbo Mathis.
That was fun. I got to see that show. It was fantastic.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we really enjoyed it. I've been, when I can, the Jimbo Mathis White Buffalo record, I'm so excited about that record. And I've been going out and playing with those guys when I can. And I'm I'm actually kind of making plans to switch roles with Jimbo and have him produce my next solo record, which is something that we'll do this winter. Oh, I'm so busy. Sometimes I have to look at my computer to remember what's going on, but I have a lot of records for me that are coming. There's a band from upstate called Escuela that has a new record called Are We Rolling that I recorded it up at their place in Bovina and then mixed it at home here. I also just finished a record for Ellen Foley. She was the voice in the Meatloaf hit.
Yes.
There was an actress in the video that wasn't her, but Ellen was the voice, and Ellen used to go out with Mick Jones from The Clash.
Yeah.
Ian Hunter produced her first record, and she was also the sassy lawyer on the TV show Night Court. So I just finished Ellen's new record, and I'm just about to start a record with this band from Boston, a really cool band called Girls, Guns, and Glory.
Yes, love them.
They're a great band. They're really good. And there's this, I'm excited about all this DelLords activity because, with any band, it's kind of, hopefully you play every gig like it could be your last. And when you get a chance to do it again, it really can be a lot of fun.
Eric Ambel, thank you so much for sharing your time with us on Country Fried Rock and chatting about what's going on with both the DelLords' new record, Elvis Club, as well as what you've got going on.
Well, thank you, Sloan. I appreciate talking to you this morning from sunny Clinton Hill, Brooklyn.
Hope to catch you soon in this next few months.
Great.
Safe travels.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Country Fried Rock, music uncovered. Find our full playlist at countryfriedrock.org. You can subscribe to our weekly podcast on iTunes. Just search Country Fried Rock. Our theme music is from The Heap. Check them out at heapdeluxe.com. That's HEAPDELUXE. Our Country Fried Rock stinger is from Steve Soto and the Twisted Hearts. Country Fried Rock. Copyright 2013 by Lilypad Productions. All rights reserved. Country Fried Rock is a partnership with the nonprofit Florence Regional Arts Alliance. Your donations to this program are tax-deductible to the extent you are eligible under U.S. law. Country Fried Rock radio programs are distributed to public radio through the Public Radio Exchange, prx.org.
Ever he been helping us some country fried rock.